What's happening, folks? Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It's time for your Twitter reactions to Midtjylland 2, Celtic 1 in Denmark. Tonight, we've crashed out the Champions League and the qualifying rounds for the fourth year. On the spin, this is live, this Twitter reaction, so I'm going to go through the tweets, but you can also comment with your own thoughts on tonight's game in the live chat box below. You have to be subscribed in order to leave a comment though, so if you haven't subscribed already, click the red subscribe button below to get involved in the live chat. First up tonight, Gary Oliver 87. Buck stops at the board. Ange's been here 40 days, operating with two centre backs with a combined age of 39 and a right back that's played twice in 2 years. Horrendous mismanagement of the highest order, and I feel sorry for the manager. I think the takeaway tonight is that we all probably feel a bit of sympathy for Ange Postecoglou because he's been thrust into this situation, taking on a squad that is in an absolute mess because of the mismanagement and the lack of planning that's happened at the club in the last few seasons. This is the result of the previous, I said this before, the result of the previous board, the previous chief executive, and the mess that the previous manager left us in last season is going to have lingering consequences for us, and I think this is just the start of it. You see that bear out tonight, and I think if you look at the game in and of itself and you forget about the off-the-pitch stuff and the lack of recruitment for a minute, you look at the game, you look at the balance of both ties, and you say that we probably had the better chances. If you discount, obviously in extra time we were out on our feet and we offered absolutely nothing, and Midtjylland did really finish the game the stronger, but over the two ties, for the majority of them, we had the best chances. We didn't put them away. We could have had 2 or 3 goals at Celtic Park last week, but we only got one. And then again tonight, that 2-minute spell where Onyedika puts the ball across the box, Bain doesn't deal with it, we counter, James Forrest has the chance to put us 2-0 up and probably finish the tie, and then we go and concede the header 30 or 40 seconds later. I think from that moment on, certainly I did, I don't know how you felt, but I thought it was ominous for that moment on, and we offered very, very little after that. I know Forrest a couple of minutes later had another opening where he dribbled into the box and Edouard got in his way, but we just kind of gradually dropped out the game after that. And it's so disappointing to watch us lose to a team like Midtjylland, who I thought over the piece of both legs were really poor. They didn't offer a great deal. I thought Onyedika was the only player in the Midtjylland team who really caught your eye, who could play. He changed the game for them tonight. He won the tie for them. But for us, our big players, they didn't have the moments of quality that we needed. As I say, the big chance fell to Forrest. The main chance to give us a big lead last week fell to Edouard, who I thought tonight was AWOL. Absolutely done absolutely nothing. There was no conviction in anything he done. He spent all night on his heels. He was too slow. He was too reactive. And Eric Sviatchenko had him in his back pocket, which, I mean, we watched Sviatchenko at Celtic, and ultimately he wasn't good enough. So disappointing to watch us go out tonight to a team of Midtjylland's level. Patrick Murphy, an all too familiar feeling. We offered very little once they equalised, and from there our performance slowly fizzled out. That's what I just said. We're going round in circles with our criticisms of the board. So let's face it, the board won't change. Their sight doesn't extend beyond Scotland. We never learn. The board never learn. These games come round at the same time every single season, and we know that the excuses are that it's hard to do deals at this stage of the window and whatever else. The reasons that we've been given for the lack of activity early on in a transfer window might be they happen at the same time every year. The board chooses every year not to be ready. It's a decision not to be ready. The indecision is a decision in itself, and every single year we find ourselves in this situation, and it's come back to bite us. I think we all knew tonight that it would come back to bite us. I talked about it in the build up to this game, that the lack of experience in the back four, the uncertainty with the goalkeeping situation, it's just a mess. It is an absolute mess, and it's not one that's crept up on us. We've seen this coming, and it does go back. It goes back as far as you want to go back, but in January we kept a manager here that shouldn't have been here, and in February and March we spoke to a manager and then waited 3 months on him to tell us no. That's why Ange Postecoglou was given this situation. That's why he was late in the door. It's why we've been late to get players in. It's why he's only had maybe 2 or 3 weeks to work with the international players who have just come back. from the Euros, we're so far behind. If we could have identified Postecoglou early enough and decided that if Eddie Howe wasn't going to give us the answer we wanted, then we should have moved on. We could have had Postecoglou here in March, April, with time to prepare, with time to build up for these games, but we didn't do that. And as I say, ultimately we all knew what the outcome would be in this tie. We all knew deep down that we would go out. I found myself at times throughout the tie when we were playing really well going forward, thinking that we might find a way to get through, but ultimately you knew that we would find a way to lose this game tonight, because it's the same movie that we've watched for the last 3 or 4 years against the AEK Athens, against Cluj, against Ferencvaros. I was there in the second leg in Athens that night, and I would never have thought that we'd go on to have 3 or 4 consecutive years of the same occurrence. But it's getting worse. The only difference is it's getting worse every single year. I think AEK Athens are probably the biggest club out of the 4 that have put us out recently. And it's got worse and worse and worse. It's like the same movie every year, but the cast just gets worse. James Hendry, we need a change in ownership, or at least resignations from the board. Ange looks sickened tonight. He also needs fresh ideas, which he will not get from a backroom team bereft of energy and imagination. The support will demonstrate their anger now we are back at Celtic Park. Aye, the board don't have the luxury of sitting in their hands because there's no one in the stadium in the same way they did last year with Neil Lennon. I said before this game tonight that it was so important if we could get a win that it would change the mood of the place and we could really get into Saturday in a positive frame of mind. It's now the opposite. The negative mood towards the board, the hostility is only going to build, and we go into a really tough game on Saturday night at Tynecastle without any away supporters, obviously. So if that wasn't tough before, I think it's got a whole lot tougher on the basis of tonight and the negative energy that is going to linger around the club for the next few days. But again, it's the same every year. We don't learn, and if we're not prepared to change the way we do things, then it'll happen next year. If we don't win the title this year, we'll be back in qualification rounds next season, and I guarantee you we will do the same thing again, because why would we change after 4 years or the best part of a decade? There was a good comment in the live full-time reaction tonight of a guy saying anyone with their eyes opened could see that the board have been a shambles for the best part of a decade, and that's true. If you discount the Rodgers years, 2 years where we made the Champions League group stages, you can go back to Maribor, you can go back to Molde, Legia Warsaw, which we ended up getting away with based on a technicality. The board have done this year after year after year, and they'll do it again next year. Before we get to the next tweet, we'll bring in a couple of your live chat comments. Adidas RC, same old Celtic and same old board. No one else to blame but the men up the stairs. Same old. We all knew what changes were needed, but for some reason the board just can't sort it out. Aye, the sentiment from everyone is the same tonight. It doesn't matter if you're on YouTube, doesn't matter if you're on Twitter. The sentiment from everyone is the same, and we all know that the buck for this stops with the board. K, this season is the product of woeful planning and woeful transfer policy for the last few years. We've still not replaced Lustig, who left over 2 years ago. Loans were our stopgap, and we are paying the price as they all left and others are being sold. Aye, loans. Where have loans gotten us? Recently, I touched on the amount of right backs we've had on loan. Frimpong being the exception, who was really, really good, but wasn't here for any length of time before he was snapped up by Leverkusen. We've had Toljan, we've had John Joe Kenny. Like, these stopgaps have gotten us nowhere, and that is a symbol of the lack of planning, or the presence of really, really poor planning for the board. And again, it doesn't change, does it? Dominic Mackay talked when he came in about modernising every area of the club. I don't know how much he's done so far, but the recruitment strategy certainly hasn't changed. And the speed that we do deals at this early on in the window, when we know that our biggest games come at this stage of the season in terms of European qualification, that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed at all. And as I keep saying, the buck for this stops with the board, and I think everyone has sympathy with the manager tonight because of the situation they inherited, and some of the young players who I thought stood up tonight. They did what they could under difficult circumstances. I thought Dane Murray, particularly after his really poor performance and the mistakes that he made, the learning curve really that he got against West Ham on Saturday, I thought he did really, really well tonight, and as I say, stood up and was counted, but ultimately shouldn't have been in that position. The club and the manager shouldn't have been in that position tonight, having to field that inexperienced back four. And the goalkeeping situation, Bain comes in and doesn't really fill you with confidence either. As I say, he kind of messed up that cutback for Onyedika, and then 90 seconds later we've conceded. The whole back five is just an absolute mess, and we've no other option. Carl Starfelt is going to come in at the weekend, and hopefully he's in a shape where he can go straight into the team and start, because we need reinforcements in there ASAP. Adam Harley, the whole structure of the club needs to change. Whatever happened to the director of football, we need to seriously change the way we do things. 4 years of the same terrible mistakes, negligence and arrogance from the people at the top. The manager and the committed players deserve better. Aye, that's a really good point. We spent, again, months surrounding, when we were surrounded by the Eddie Howe speculation, talking about a director of football, talking about changing the structure. And here we are, we've got the same structure. We've got a manager and a chief executive. Dominic Mackay said that he's not rushing to make any decisions in terms of the structure, and he wants to look around, talk to other clubs, see what the best examples are. Well, guess what? It's too late. Looking around and talking to other people and not deciding, it's too late. We didn't get a director of football in. We didn't really change the recruitment structure, and here we are out of the Champions League again. The last tweet tonight goes to the same story, different opponents, worst squad depth in my lifetime. I feel bad for the manager. That is as succinct as anyone could really put it tonight. So disappointing to go out to a team in Midtjylland who have some similarities to us in that they've got a new manager. They've lost a lot of key players. They're in a bit of turmoil or transition, if you want to put it that way, themselves. And when we've had the better chances over the two games, it's just so gut-wrenching to watch us find a way to lose. It seems to be what we always do in these European qualifiers. We contrive to find a way to lose. Regardless of how many chances we create, we always end up on the losing side. But ultimately, as I say tonight, it goes back to the board, it goes back to the lack of planning, it goes back to last season. You could take it back to 2019 if you wanted to. We're in this situation because of things that have happened before. We go into Saturday now against Hearts. We've got to get the league campaign. We've got to get a positive start to the league campaign. There's just no other way. The hostility towards the board and the anger for the supporters will just grow if we don't get the league campaign underway positively on Saturday. And then looking ahead to next week, we'll have the qualifier against Jablonec, I think it is. So, aye, we've got it all on. We knew that, but so disappointing tonight. That's it. Like this video, comment your own thoughts below. Thanks for joining us on the live stream as well. Really appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed already, please click the red subscribe button below. We're getting ever closer to that 30,000 mark. The quicker we can get there, the better. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on Saturday for the build-up to Hearts.